Everyone. I want to welcome you to our weekly town hall meeting. We thank everyone that's on Facebook or YouTube, social media. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Thank all those who are on the telephone. Again, we are at our 28th week of our COVID update, also town hall meeting. We have a great panel tonight. Here with us, we have Director Mark Barner from our Property Maintenance Department. We also have Director of Public Works, Chris Cope. We have also Superintendent Muzamil Muhammad Stevens, and we have the guy who makes sure that when it comes to COVID-19, who works each and every day, our health officer, Victor Cote. So again, thank everyone for joining us this evening. I'm just going to give you just a quick update, and then we're going to also ask our health officer, Victor Cote, to chime in on this COVID-19. We know for a fact that we are now starting to open up in the city, but again, the governor still have us on another 30-day executive order, which we continue to follow that executive order, continue to make sure we practice social distance, continue to make sure that we wear our masks each and every day, and we also making sure that we constantly tell folks about the importance of washing their hands for 20 seconds. So again, with that, as of today, September the 30th, we have confirmed 2,106 positive cases here in the city, 231 confirmed deaths. Again, that's no new cases of death for the past 2 days, so we're very happy about that. And that's because all of us have been doing what we need to do to keep ourselves, our families, and our community safe, but we cannot get lapsed. I want to give you the ward breakdown before we go into our meeting. Here it is, the ward breakdown. In the first ward, we have 343 cases. In the second ward, we have 398 cases. In the third ward, we have 491 cases. In the fourth ward, we have 482 cases. And in the fifth ward, we have 474 cases. In Essex County alone, there are 2,108 cases, positive cases, and 1,900 resulted in deaths. The total in New Jersey, and I'm going to say that again, the total in New Jersey is 250,275, with over 14,335 resulted in deaths. So with that, East Orange, I'm asking all of you and all of us to continue to stay vigilant, continue to practice social distance, because it's important for us to really get these numbers down. So with that, what I want to do, as I introduce the panel this evening, we really want to have some good conversations about the direction that we're going here in the city of East Orange. So we are in the midst of our fall season, going into our winter season, and we have with us today, we have our Director of Department of Public Works, Chris Cope. So I just want to really get into a conversation with our director, but I'm gonna let him just introduce himself first, just give you a little background about him, then we're gonna go right to our property maintenance, and we're going to go right to our health officer. But we just want to just have a good talk about some of the initiatives that we're planning here in the city of East Orange in terms of our DPW department, because we know we are in that season when we have to, cut down some trees. We're in that season where our director is going to talk about our paving and milling. We're going to talk about the importance of making sure you don't sweep stuff down our sewer base, the clock, the sewer up. So anyway, with that, good evening, Director Chris Cope.
Hey man, thank you for the invite, man. honored to be here. First, I just want to commend you and the health department, health officer, and the director of the health department for your response to COVID-19. Being an employee in the city of East Orange, I know that I've felt safer with your leadership and the things that you and the health department have done. So thank you for that, for really putting the employees first on that front. As you know, our public works department consists of various divisions, and we're here to address any questions you may have about some of the upcoming projects. We do everything from handling litter patrol and cleaning the streets, managing the garbage contract, our recycling, as well as all the way up to engineering, where we review plans while working with the building department, the planning department, and so on and so forth. So again, man, thank you for the invite, and we're honored to be here. I'm joined by Mr. Muzamil Muhammad Stevens, our assistant. So looking forward to talking to the people and bringing government to the people, as you said.
Thank you so much. We had a great walk today. We did Mayor on the Block, and that initiative is to really bring government to the front doors of our constituents here in the city. I do have a few questions. Over the past 2 years, we created a plan to target some of our most torn streets like Tremont Avenue, which haven't been paved over a decade, and we got it done. What other major paving and milling projects do we have in the pipeline?
Well, Mayor, we recently on September 18th opened up bids, so we'll be selecting a vendor or a contractor to do the following streets. We have Elmwood Ave, which has been one long outstanding, Wayne Ave, Halstead Street between Central Ave and Freeway Drive, South Munn between Central and Freeway Drive, Springdale Ave, a portion of Springdale Ave. Again, Springdale Ave is a very long road, so it's hard for us to do it at one time.
Yes.
And Summit Street. All of this is from state funding. If all goes well and the funding equation works out, this will be the longest length of streets that we've done in over 8 years.
Right.
So it'll definitely be an accomplishment. But it's a never-ending battle. Our roadways, as it gets hot in the summer, cold in the winter, our roadways tend to break up. But with your leadership and support, along with the council, we've been able to tackle a lot of these streets that haven't been paved in a very long time, like Tremont.
Right, and we really appreciate that. I know that we hear it on our walks with certain streets that need paving. So always remind our residents, especially the homeowners and some of the tenants, that we are getting to that. We are doing everything we can to make sure some of these streets that has been forgotten for decades, like you said, we're getting it done. I want to go into, a few weeks ago, we launched a major water improvement project. Tell us more about that project that we launched, that water improvement project.
With the assistance of the East Orange Water Commissioners, President Allison Rowland, we've been able to really push initiatives in the water department. For those who remember, you remember a few years back, even during your time on council, Mayor, there were some issues that required state involvement with our water utility. I'm happy to say that we've made it through those issues, and now all the work we're doing is work that we decided to do. We're not mandated to do the work. There's no requirements to do the work, but what we are doing is getting ahead of the game. Recently, we awarded a project that's going on now for $12.6 million, one of the largest projects that the Water Commission has taken on over the last several years, in over 10 years. That project is to improve our water lines. I'm happy to say that there hasn't been any issues with our quality or the quantity of water we're producing. As you know, we have new developments going on throughout the city.
Yes.
And we've been able to provide them with water, and we have many more still coming online. So just really proud and happy that the men and women of the water department, the commissioners, that we've been able to get past some of those issues that have happened years ago and get on the right track to improving what I believe is one of the best water systems in the state.
Right, and thank you for that. We recently sent out a notice to reinforce our parking rules, right, which we've been working very hard on that. Can you explain from your perspective why we have these rules and how they are helped to keep our streets clean.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks for that. One of the, and I know we're going to touch on the littering issue a little bit later, but the parking rules really are in effect so that we could sweep our streets. During this COVID-19 crisis, the amount of people who've been home and staying home has developed more trash. Because it's developed more trash, it's more important that we now have the rules back in effect. And I think most residents, you made the call to relax the parking rules, understandably,
right,
with so many people home and under the lockdown that they couldn't move their cars. But what that did was accumulate a lot of trash. If you start looking at the gutters, you see caked up leaves and trash in some locations. So now's the time we want to get back to really pushing hard before the fall comes and the leaves start falling again, where we can clean our streets properly. So we're asking you citizens to help us out, move your cars whenever possible. You've initiated also, Mayor, daytime street cleaning rules.
Yes.
To make it a little easier where people can park on their streets overnight and have to move during the day so that we could come through and sweep. So yeah, it's just important to try to catch back up because we had the parking rules relaxed for so long.
Right. Now, I want to kind of stay on that just for a few minutes in terms of the gutters, because we want our community to know why it's so important not to sweep trash down in our gutters. Can you, elaborate on that?
Well, one of the issues we have when we're doing our gutters, when we have too much trash in our gutters, they tend to fill over the inlet grates. And when they get filled over, when it rains, now we have flooding issues and things like that. So that's one aspect. The second is general. I know that you have children and grandchildren that you care deeply about. It's an environmental issue. We want to make sure, because these grates ultimately empty out into waterways. They go into the rivers the Passaic River, Second River on the north side of the city, and we want to make sure that our waterways stay clear. So, putting oils and things like that ultimately damage our environment. So it's very important that, number one, just from a safety perspective, we don't want the gutters to be clogged, but also from an environmental perspective, we want to make sure that we do everything we can to keep our waterways clean.
Right, and we really appreciate that, and we want the constituents to know that that is so important. Can you explain the new bulk trash pickup limit for those who may not be familiar with what the rules are and what is considered bulk and trash? Because most of the time, we do get calls through the Mayor's Office of Constituent Service, and what they'll say is, hey, Mayor, I had 8 bags out on the curbside along with my trash. They took the trash, but they only took 3 of the bags that I had out for bulk. Explain what the rules are so that the community can know what really needs to happen when you sit bulk out.
Mayor, as you know, we put out a book every year. This is our handbook for solid waste and recycling. Each resident, each property in the city should receive a copy of this book. If not, it's also online. But in this book, it details all of our trash rules. With so many apartments and in the city, what we noticed was we was getting such an excessive amount of trash when people move out, when people switch properties for whatever reason, whether it's eviction or voluntary, that we couldn't do the whole route. We have a company who the city contracts to do our trash, and the trash was so overwhelming that many times our trash wasn't getting picked up until well into the evening. So we implemented this bulk limit rule to make sure that landlords, when needed, got their own trash pickup, number one, but also to help not have the single-family homeowners, the 2-family homeowners have to wait longer for their trash to be picked up because the trucks get filled up that much quicker. So our bulk rule now is that we limit bulk to 3 items, right? Household trash, regular garbage, food waste, things like that could go in regular trash, but bulk, including types of construction debris and other bulky items, whether it be a mattress or beds and things like that. We've limited that to 3 items per pickup. That we hope will reduce the amount of time it takes for us to do our cleanup.
Right. And Director, thank you for that. And And what that leads me into, I kind of want to jump a little bit with this subject, because I know we have our Director of Property Maintenance and Code Enforcement along with building here. You know, when Chris talked about, when Chris talked about the bulk, and sometimes we see that when some of these houses are being rehabbed in our city, and some of the contractors are taking all the material, all the bulk, and putting the garbage out across the whole sidewalk. From a property maintenance and code enforcement code, what are we doing to curb that? What shouldn't they do, and how do it become a violation?
Well, at first it becomes challenging because most of the time those property owners don't live on the property.
Mm-hmm.
So what we try to do is to contact them immediately, tell them they have to take that trash in because Public Works doesn't pick up construction material. So first of all, we try to contact the landlord. If we don't, then we issue a summons. That summons will be turned into, if they don't show up in court, a fine will be issued and be turned over to the tax department for a tax lien. And at that time, DPW will pick up the bulk items, submit a bill, and that'll also be turned over to the tax office.
Right, because quite often, one thing about me, I drive through the city and I see that, and it disturbs me because I always feel that folks who are rehabbing these homes taking advantage of the city, and how they take advantage of the city is that they sitting all that bulk out instead of getting a dumpster and doing it the right way, putting the stuff in the dumpster and taking it down to the loading company where they unload it at.
Right.
So I just wanted to get your perspective on that, because I do believe that that has been an issue in our community. So I'm gonna jump back. Like I said, I'm gonna jump back and forth. Also, Mr. Bonner, one of our biggest resident concerns during this COVID-19 pandemic has been rent. Tell us more on how we are making sure that tenants are not being taken advantage of, and who to contact for assistance.
It's unfortunate there are some landlords here in East Orange that are taking advantage of tenants. There are executive orders that are in place by the governor that evictions are placed on hold. But there are people, some landlords, that are trying to illegally evict tenants. If any tenant feels that they're being forcibly or harassed by a landlord, they need to call the police immediately. Then they can call our rent control office and speak to our rent control officer, Ms. Bonda Watson. She also, we are also still taking regular complaints through our rent control office.
Right, and that's good to hear, because I know that the city, we just launched a program for rental assistance, right, to help renters also. But we don't want folks to feel that they can take advantage of renters because this COVID has somehow came upon us, and this pandemic. We want folks to know that they do have rights. So I really thank you for that. Mr. Director Cope, break down the importance of recycling and how it helps our community and the dollar amount. How important recycling is?
So, Mayor, as we've had numerous discussions on recycling, the key to recycling is that the more we recycle, the less our bill is for trash removal. So everything that comes out of the trash and goes into the recycling stream potentially means less money we have to pay for the disposal of the trash, and the potential to be paid for getting rid of recycling. I'm happy to say we had a record year last year under your leadership, and again, we can't do it without the men and women in the Public Works Department, but we was able to increase our recycling revenue. And then based on the amount of trash the amount of recyclables that we take out of the trash and put into the recycling stream, the city then gets a state grant based on our tonnage. This year, I believe we were the top 5, although, as we know, East Orange is top 20 in terms of population. We were top 5 in recycling grants from the state, so that was an accomplishment. And thank you to the citizens of the city for all your help in making sure that we recycle, especially our young people and our seniors, who I always believe drive the course of the city. So that's been something that's been we've been very proud of that, being able to continue to increase recycling.
Right. And I'm gonna bounce to, again, to DPW and Department of Code Enforcement. I know that recently y'all have teamed up to establish a program that focuses on cleaning vacant and abandoned properties. Where are we with that program? So I'm gonna start off with our director, then I'm gonna bounce over to Mr. Muhammad Stevens.
Well, in the middle of July, we hired approximately 8 employees that were just hired to maintain vacant and city-owned properties. So far, since July, we've cleaned about over 200 lots in the city. And we are teamed with DPW. They are supervising out in the field and we make the schedules.
Good. So, Mr. Muhammad Stevens, I know that you have been in the forefront also on the DPW side in terms of making sure that a team of folks go out and also not only maintaining the corridors of Main Street, Central Avenue, Park Avenue, our borders, but also with this vacant and abandoned property. I just want to get your input on how we're doing and the initiative of that program and what has been judged for the outcome.
Well, thank you, Mayor, for the invite. It's certainly good to be here and certainly allow the residents to know what's going on throughout the city. Certainly, the partnership between Code Enforcement and DPW have gone very, very well. We've taken one of our lead employees, Terry Peppers, to lead the crew. We have an 8-man crew that consists of the VAP team. We've gone throughout the city, as Director Barnes said. I mean, over 200 properties have been cleaned. The guys are out there, they're working very, very hard. And one of the things I think that has really made the program successful, Mayor, is that the team of guys is working with one another. They like one another. They enjoy working with one another. So this particular initiative that you set forth has really been a big positive contribution for our city. We know certainly that we get calls throughout the day about some city-owned lots that need to be cleaned or properties that's causing problems in various parts of the city. So one of the things that this vacant and abandoned team has been able to do, not just only going to one property, but have been able to circle back and hit properties almost 2.5 times since this program has started.
Right.
So it's a big plus, and again, we're very appreciative for the team that's in place. Certainly, we give kudos to the vacant and abandoned property, the manager, Elder Saval. Certainly, Lakeisha Bonaran has certainly helped us to put this in place, and of course, Director Barnes' leadership has really allowed this team to gel in the community. I mean, even today, as we were out and about with Mayor on the block, the team was able to get new uniforms, and just having those uniforms on, man, certainly made the guys feel good, feel proud, and make them feel like they're part of the team. So, just that in itself has been able to make a difference in the city. So we're really excited about what's been happening.
No, I'm excited too because we started to get calls and people starting to see those guys out there. Listen, DPW has been really the nucleus of us driving, along with property maintenance and so many other departments. But I always say, when people can see things visible, we have to get it cleaned up. And I know for a fact that we have been getting calls from different residents and different homeowners saying, Mayor, thank you for cleaning that lot up. Mayor, thank you for getting the trash up. But with that, I do have to let our residents know that we need your help also. We need all of you to do your part. We need all of you to call property maintenance or call DPW or call the police department. When you see somebody out there dumping on our city, when you see someone backing up in a truck in the middle of the night, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, as we constantly say, if you see something, say something. Don't be afraid to get a license plate. One thing what we always do is protect our citizens when it comes to y'all calling in. All the calls are confidential. If you call the police department, if you call DPW, if you call code enforcement, if you call them to the health department, our goal is to make sure that when people come to our city, they see that our city clean. We need our residents and our young people to also take notice when you're throwing paper or not putting trash in the proper receptacles, right? Put them in a trash can. Take care of your city. Keep your city clean and green. So we need all of your help. But with that, Director Bonner, if residents or business owners want to report code violations, right, what is the best way to do so?
The best way is to call our main office. Our number is 973-266-5320. You admin person will then take your complaint. You can give them whatever information you want. If it's concerning your apartment, you have to give your proper information, the property owner, the super's name, number, your name. If you are complaining about something in the community or common area of your apartment building, you don't have to give your name. It could be anonymous. Just let us know the address, and we'll send an inspector out to take care of the problem. Also, you can call our office to complain about if your common area is not being sanitized, because all the common areas are supposed to be sanitized a few times a day during the COVID-19 virus. So you can let us know that also.
And that's good to hear. Listen, we are about to embark on the winter season, right? We're into the fall, then the winter coming, and soon, landlords got to turn the heat on, right? Mm-hmm. Give the folks the right date when the heat actually supposed to be on, because most people think the heat only supposed to come on October the 15th, which is October. You give the date and give what is the right procedure when a tenant has a complaint about heat or complain about a draft in their apartment. What is the proper procedure to do in that apartment?
Okay, once again, if you have a heat complaint, you can call our main number, 973-266-5320. Admin staff will take your information. Now, this is between 8:30 and 4:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Now, if you have a heat problem in the evenings after 4:30 p.m., you call the same number, you follow the prompts, press number 9. At that time, you'll be transferred to a live dispatcher who will take your information, once again, your name, your apartment number, the landlord and super or manager's number. That information will then be given to the field inspector, who will contact you, come out, take a field to the field, take a temperature if needed, and he'll contact the owner or super to try to get your heat back on.
What should the temperature be in the apartment?
The temperature is supposed to be 70 degrees at all times. It used to be at different times, it would go down in the night, but because we had a lot of complaints about the heat, and we have especially with the very cold times coming up, it's supposed to be 70 degrees at all times. Now, on the weekends and holidays, you can also call a hotline starting at 8 a.m. in the morning, and the inspector will come out up until 10 o'clock at night.
Right, so again, give them that number again in terms of what number they should call in terms of property maintenance, and also on the weekend. I just want people to have that.
It's still the same main number, 973-266-5320. After hours, you have to follow the prompts, press number 9. You'll be transferred to a live dispatcher. He'll take your information and you get it to an inspector, and he'll contact you.
So also, we're going to go right into this because I know that we get called. How is businesses currently being conducted for property owners, contractors, and those needing inspections and permits?
Okay, as far as the property owners, the business that we do in Office of Property Owners are certificates of habitability, so they can rent apartments, or certificates of conformity, so they can sell and transfer their properties. That process is still going on. What they have to do, because the city is still closed to the public, they go to our city website, eastorange-nj.gov, and they download, they'll go to code enforcement, go to forms, and they can download these applications. And once they have these applications, they have to pay for them. They have to give us a certified check or money order, and they can either mail it in with the application or bring it to City Hall and place it in a lockbox we have in the rear courtyard. Now, we're also in the process of setting up Municipay, so you can pay online, so soon you won't have to pay by check or money order. As far as permits, it's the same process. They can go to our city website, go to code enforcement, to the building division, download their permit application or zoning application, and turn it in with the proper fee the same way. And sometimes it's tenant or, the owner is not able to wait until we mail them in certificates or permits. They can come to City Hall to the rear and we'll bring it down to them.
Thank you. And that's good to hear, man, because, hey, Vic, I just want to chime in too. When we talk about code enforcement, right, most of the time I know being the health officer that the health department get pulled in sometime too when they have to go out when it comes to health issues, because when a tenant call or store owner call in terms of saying they see mice drop-ins or they see infestation, how do the health department come into that fold along with property maintenance? How do y'all work together on that?
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
Usually, once we have the property maintenance or code enforcement inspectors out in the field, they give us a heads up when they find things to do with rodent infestations. And in our department, we also have the equipment to deal with rodent infestations. We're not looking just for droppings. We're also looking for rodent urine stains all over the place and see evidence of rodent activity. And once we find those, the first thing we want to do is to find out who is the super or manager of the property. We engage the manager and the super, and usually we would give them the opportunity to fix the issue, to get an exterminator to deal with the rodent infestation. And failure to do that within a specified period could result in enforcement at that point.
Thank you, Vic, for that. And I definitely want to come back to you, Vic, because as we move around the city, I want to kind of jump over to our director of DPW, Chris Cope. Chris Cope, again, when we talk about the winter season, folks are starting to see that the leaves and things are falling, but during the last winter storm that we had in our city, and I want to commend all of us for really locking arms together and having to come out along with our emergency management and DPW and property maintenance and police department, fire, everybody played a role. What is going on with some of the trees in our city that we see in two folds? Some are kind of leaning because the trees are old, and also what are we doing about when we see trees that pushing the sidewalk up?
Great question, man. We get a lot of those complaints. As we know, the city is old, right? Most of these trees are older than any residents that we have in the city, and then they've been there for many years, especially in some of the long established areas of the city, Greenwood area, Presidential Heights, the area off of Tremont, the poor farms, as some people call them. And in those areas, you have trees that have grown so large, and as the city has built around these trees, the tree roots have nowhere to go. So some of these trees have become weakened over the years. By New Jersey state statute, and most municipalities have adopted this law, the tree, when the tree falls or uplifts a sidewalk, it's the property owner's responsibility to repair the sidewalk. Now, what we do as a city is if you call as a resident and you say that your sidewalk is being uplifted by a tree, we will come out to cut the tree and remove the tree stump, but it's your responsibility to get a permit to make the repairs to the sidewalk. We're kind of the enforcement arm with code enforcement. Well, code enforcement violates the person, and then we have to react to that. So code enforcement leads the charge, and then we follow up after they do what they have to do. Obviously, we don't want anyone to get fined. That's not the purpose here, but we do want our residents to be safe.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that our sidewalks are safe, especially as we hopefully get into next year and schools reopen and so on and so forth.
Right, and thank you for that. And Director Bonner, it's quite often folks will call and say, hey man, there's a tree that's on somebody else's property, but it's hanging into my property. who is responsible for that tree. So if there's a tree on my property, but my tree is hanging in the next yard, am I, as the homeowner, responsible for that tree, or my adjacent neighbor is responsible for to cut the tree that's hanging over their yard? Who's responsible for that?
Wherever the tree lies, the roots, that's what's responsible. So if the tree is on your property, the tree is on your property, you're responsible.
All right, all right. So what happens also, I think we gotta clear some things up. What happens also, if that is a vacant and abandoned property, right? The city don't own it. Nobody's in that property, but the tree is hanging in my yard. Who's supposed to come out and cut that tree if it's a health and safety hazard?
It's still the responsibility of the owner, who will try to contact. If we don't, that's when we'll issue a summons, and then that's when we'll contact DPW and refer it to them.
Right, so there will be action taken, but again, how long do that process take? I gave you a call, nobody's in that vacant property, it's not city owned, y'all cannot locate the owner, y'all start the process. How long is that process before the tree is cut?
Well, if it's a hazard where the tree could fall, within 24 hours, if we can't contact the property owner, then we'll issue the summons and have DPW take care
Who
of it.
comes out and do that evaluation?
Well, our field inspector.
Oh, Phil, okay, great. I think people need to know that, because quite often, when sometimes people try to make a judgment call with trees or with where they line at in their yard, I think that we always need to give that information so that folks will know that if it's your tree and that house next to you is not vacant and it's all of them are occupied, then somebody got to be responsible,
Exactly.
right? So I think that's important.
That also goes for vacant properties that are not secure. If the property is not secure and it's vacant, we also will do the inspection, we'll notify if it's owned by a bank or whoever. We don't get a response, we'll issue a summons, and again, we'll contact DPW to secure the property.
Right, and you know, that brings me to a segue of this, right, to direct the code, right? When we talk about litter, I know that now we got a litter campaign about to happen. We also offer, and has been offering, shredding. So in a twofold, give us some information on the litter control and also the shredding program that we have.
Man, I'm very excited. You set a meeting for us to, start our litter campaign. I won't let too much out of the bag yet about what the campaign's gonna look like. But, going back to even the comments or the conversation about street sweeping, with COVID-19 and this pandemic hitting us so hard and forcing people to stay home, the amount of garbage that we've generated has been unbelievable. You see it in our numbers, in the cost from our vendor to get rid of trash, that we're talking about on some weeks in 1 week, over 10 tons of garbage more was produced in the city just by people staying home, for longer periods of time. But that also leads to more trash on the streets when people have started to come out. So really, citizens, we need your help in keeping the city clean. Littering is something that we all should be disgusted by, right? This is where we live, this is where we sleep, in many cases this is where we eat. We need to make sure that we keep our own city clean, and we need to be able to hold each other accountable from young to old, that this is the city that we want to represent us well, and therefore we should make sure that we keep it clean. And I know that you're the type of person to pull people's coattails if needed, Mayor.
Yeah.
And I think you have a lot of individuals in the city who feel the same way, and they need to know that they're supported, that we do want our city to be clean. We want it to be appealing to developers. We want it to be appealing to businesses and things like that. So, littering is just one of those things that really bother me, because I do know that in some communities, when you don't see littering, it's just really about a state of mind, how people feel about themselves and what they think of themselves. So I think that we should really, again, especially with our young people, it's okay to use the litter basket and wait till you get home to throw something in the garbage, because again, this is where you live, and you want to make sure where you live represents you well. Our next shredding event, Mayor, is gonna be November 14th. That's free to all residents. You come to City Hall with your confidential documents and things of that sort, and they're confidentially shredded, so that you can make sure that, you know, I know the police department is in here, but shout out to Chief Bindi and Director Saldita, but you know, identity theft is a big deal, so we offer this service so that people can confidentially get rid of their documents and so forth.
Right, and thank you for that, Director. And I'm glad you kind of expounded on the importance of like litter, right? And we talked about that earlier because, you know, I quite often always say this, right? You know, we gotta treat our community the same way we would treat any other community, right? And when you talk about the mindset, I quite often say, when we leave our city and we go to other towns, and it's not to put other towns on blast, but if we was in West Caldwell, if we was up in Cedar Grove, if we was in any other town, you wouldn't throw no paper on the ground. You wouldn't litter, right? Some of us. But soon we come to our city, which is our home, I find it ironic that we don't take the same initiative. We don't take the same pride, some of us, right? And that's not everybody, but there's a few people that do not take pride in just taking a soda bottle and putting it in the trash can, or taking a potato chip bag and putting it in a trash can. We got people that drive through our city sometime and they driving down the street and throw trash out the window. But when we take pride in our city and we see something like that, we're gonna report you. And we're gonna take your license plate, we're gonna identify you, and we're sending that ticket to your wherever you at. Because we want folks to take the same pride in our city, which we call East Orange, the same pride they take anywhere else. So again, I'm glad we talked about that because I am very adamant about keeping our city clean. I am very adamant about making sure that we take the same initiatives that any other town do, right? The speeding, the same thing. People drive through our city doing 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, but you go anywhere else, and I see you, and I'm putting you on blast. You'll put your seatbelt on, you'll tighten up, and you'll slow down once you get to the line between East Orange and Glen Ridge. You do it, or you go through Verona. You follow the rules. If you go to West Caldwell, you follow the rules. But soon you get down to East Orange, and in this area, you want to put on a show and speed. But again, we have a strong initiative with our police department, and we have a strong enforcement that we're about to put in place for those who speeding through our city, those who littering through our city. We want you to take the same initiative that you take anywhere else. I want to kind of jump over to our health department, to our health officer, Vic. Vic, we know that for the last 28 weeks, 29 weeks, because you have been definitely a part of it in terms of this COVID. And Director Cope kind of alluded to the garbage, where we're seeing more garbage than ever because more people are home, right? More people are eating more because when you're home, you have a tendency of eating. But I kind of want to go into the perspective of when we talk about this COVID. I just gave some numbers out earlier. Where we at in terms of our young people, in terms of the number and how important it is for our young people to know that they still have to wear those masks and practice social distance, and just give us an overview of where we at in terms of our senior population, because I know that certain senior buildings have been shut down in terms of people moving around, coming in and out. Where we at in terms of those numbers, and where we at with our seniors in terms of being a little more flexible?
Thank you, Mayor. At this time, there actually is no executive order that prevents visitors from going into senior buildings or residential properties or high-rise buildings. And so what we've been doing is to work with the managers to actually come up with a plan for each senior building as they require it. Some senior buildings want everything opened up, and others want some restrictions. So we work with them to ensure that that people don't just walk in and out of the buildings, and also to ensure that the common areas are cleaned and disinfected regularly. Also, we have ensured that the common rooms are shut down. We don't want contact in areas where people can congregate and spread COVID. Also, the elevators, no more than 3 people in the elevator at any time, and all the buttons have to be cleaned regularly. Also, we are looking at this time to expand our campaign because we are coming up to the flu season at this time. And it's very, very important that we ensure that our seniors get their flu vaccine. We, at this point, are worried of the fact that it is a possibility, it is possible to have flu and COVID at the same time. We do not know what the outcome would be. It could get worse, but if you have your flu vaccine, it sort of protects you at least from, if you have both infections at the same time, it gives you some protection from having a more severe illness. So it's important for us to please ensure that we get our COVID vaccines at this time. Also, it's also important that we ensure that our visitors get checked as they go into senior buildings. Their temperatures have to be taken, and also questionnaires have to be filled out for COVID symptoms, and their phone numbers especially must be taken as well, just in case we have issues with COVID and we have to contact them and do contact tracing. We want to be sure we can reach out to these individuals. We've been working with managers from one building to the other and ensuring that our seniors are safe and that all the guidelines from the governor's executive orders are all complied with. At this point, I think we in East Orange, we haven't had a lot of issues with COVID in our senior buildings at this time, but we do not want to keep it the way it is. I think that is our goal.
Thank you, Vic. And very quickly, when we talk about the flu shot, right? Sometimes there's a twofold with the flu shot. Some people say, I'm not going to take the flu shot because somehow it can make me a little sicker, right? Explain that myth in terms of in what age category should we be taking the flu shot?
Okay. The flu shot is for everyone 6 months and older. Every one of those can take flu shot, except in cases where you have a contraindication from a physician that says you shouldn't do it. Some people do not take flu shots because they think they are allergic to egg, but we have 2 flu shots that are not egg-based. So you can get any of those 2 flu shots. You don't have to be afraid of those. Some people do not take flu shots because they think it's going to cause autism. There's no evidence that flu shots cause autism in anybody. And there's also no evidence that flu shots would make you have flu or influenza. You won't come down with influenza because firstly, there are 2 types. The first one is the killed vaccine, and the other is the live attenuated vaccine. The live attenuated vaccine is a live virus that has no powers to do anything. And so you shouldn't be afraid of getting your flu shots.
Thank you, Vic, and I appreciate that. Listen, we got a lot of information provided tonight, right? But what I want to do before we close, I want to go around to the folks on the panel again. But I'm gonna go over to Connie and ask, do we got anybody that called in? Because we have folks that's calling in. So Connie, can you give us those folks who are called in and have questions for the people that's on the panel?
So Nadine Williams has a question. She wants to know when exactly is the heat supposed to be turned on? I'm not sure if you gave a date.
It's October 1st to May 15th.
Okay, so October 1st to May 15th. Now, this question, Mayor, you can respond, and Christopher Cope may also follow up. Anise Smith wants to know, with the city-owned lots, can we look into making them available for cars to park, particularly during snow season?
Yeah, I know that the last season that what we did, we identified a couple of lots throughout the city in the different wards. Thank you for that question. We would definitely look into it. We know how important it is that when it snows, and I'm glad someone brought that up, that you have to remove your car off the street so that way our snow plows can come down the street. So what we would do as a team, I know that we done it before, especially when there was a certain amount of snow that we expected. And I'm gonna let the director elaborate on that in terms of the lots and everything.
Well, over the last couple of years, you put an initiative together where we allowed cars, mainly in the school lots, to utilize the school lots for parking and clear vehicles off the street so the plows could go through safely. I think the resident had a good suggestion. Obviously, I know our lawyers probably have some issues with the liabilities and things like that. But you know, I think we're doing the best we can with what we have. The city doesn't want to be, you know, we don't know what's in some of these lots sometimes and the hazards that might be in there. But I think it's worth exploring.
Yes.
You know, as always, Mayor, if you task us with a challenge, we'll get the team together and try to come up with the best solution.
And I think whatever we can do to provide the services to our residents and bring relief to them, let's try to make it work. All right? Connie, you got any more questions?
We have another one. This one, Director Cope can respond to. It's from Damola Bakari. What about the water? There's a residue of film left after boiling East Orange water.
So one of the things that's unique about East Orange water is that as opposed to surface water, our water comes from underground. We have underground aquifers that are located in towns of Milburn, Livingston, and when the water comes from underground, it's naturally hard. So a lot of times the film you see is just calcium deposits and buildup. Ironically, that is also good for folks with osteoporosis and it's good for your bones. So I know it's somewhat annoying with your different types of appliances and things like that, but what we suggest is if it's really bad in your home, is that you get a water softener. A water softener device will help remove some of that, the calcium and deposit buildups.
Thank you for that. Any more questions, Connie?
We actually have a lot of questions and we're not going to have as much time, but I wanted to make sure that people on Facebook know that we go back and we're going to try to respond to every single one of your questions directly. Some of them are more one-on-one. So just
give me a few of them.
Just calm down because people are going they're a little antsy on Facebook today, a little spicy.
All right, but that's okay. We like tough questions sometimes too, because you know.
Well, here's another one. Sherry Clark wants to know, what is the plan to address the excessive speeding on Ampere Parkway?
Right, listen, and we had that discussion earlier, how our chief and our director, we having weekly meetings. We're coming up with a plan in terms of enforcing speeding. And it's sad to say that this speeding is throughout the city, right? But we're not going to go and allow folks to feel that they can speed through our city. So we're going to be making sure that initiative when it comes to setting up speed traps, setting up initiatives throughout this city. We are going to make sure that folks that feel that they can speed through our city, that we're going to ticket you for speeding. So we do have an initiative that we're putting in place. The cops have been out there. We will make sure that we put Ampere Parkway on the radar in terms of this speeding, and we're working in collaboration with our friends over in Bloomfield, but we definitely going to address that problem that you're having over there.
Ready for some more?
Yes.
Okay. Kyla Banks Watkins has questions about voting registration. She wants to know, will all of the voting locations remain the same for in-person voting? And will the ballot box still be in front of City Hall? If not, we know that it will be, but will there be other ballot boxes throughout East Orange?
Right. Yeah, and great question. Yes, the ballot box will be in front of City Hall. What people have to remember in terms of the ballots, right? When you get your ballot in, you can either mail it in, put it in the box. The voting places where you normally go to vote, you have to remember now, when you go there, you're not voting by machine. You're either voting by provisional, writing it in, or audio. So again, when you go there, you're probably thinking that I'm gonna go in there, I'm gonna vote the regular way. It's not that. You're still gonna have to either write it in provisionally or you're gonna do audio. So I always like to put that right out in front. That's the way. If you wanna go to the voting poll, yes, you can go. But again, you're still gonna be doing what you call a provisional, and you're gonna write it in, or you're gonna do it on audio, all right? So if you can, and we're hoping and pushing very hard, when you get your ballot, the ballot box are right now in City Hall. If you go to the county clerk's, Chris Durkin's website or his Facebook page, it'll tell you where all the boxes are located here in Essex County.
Okay, Peaches Simmons would like to know, is there a program for homeowners that were affected by COVID and need some assistance?
Yes, we do have a program. A few weeks ago, our Director of Policy, Planning, and Development was on, Dan Jennings, who spearheads that department, and he talked about some of the programs that we have, from rental assistance. He talked about also programs where you can come and use our small tools library. We have grant programs for those individuals who need repairs to their homes. What I'm going to do is give you my office number, 973-266-5151. Call my office, ask for Justin Brown, or you can ask for Tony Jackson or Aja Baldwin. They will put you in contact with Dan Jennings, and he should be able to assist you. Give me one more.
Carrier Arnold wants to know, where can you bring your application to register to vote, and what's the deadline to register to vote?
Right, so, no later than October the 5th, right, in terms of registering to vote, right? But what you should do, if you get your ballot, as we talked about earlier, the ballot box is in front of City Hall. Fill out the information, you drop it in there, or you can go to the county clerk's office and drop it off down there. My best advice for you is to fill it out, make sure you drop it in the ballot box in front of City Hall. But if you like, you can drive downtown, you can call down there first, get information of how you need to, because I know most municipalities are not closed, but how you enter. But what you can do is drop it in the box or go down to the clerk's office.
So actually, the deadline for registering to vote is October 13th. I know the mayor said the 5th. The 5th is actually the new census deadline to fill out the census. So if you haven't filled out the census, you still have time. They extended it for a few more days. But voter registration deadline is October 13th. And the city clerk's office will be out in front of City Hall on that day. They're going to have late night voter registration between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. on October 13th. You can come and you can register.
Right. Thank you very much for that, Ms. Jackson. So with that, what we're going to do, all the questions or concerns that you have this evening, we're going to make sure that those who had questions, who came on the line tonight, we're going to make sure that we answer your question or your concern through the first Facebook page. We get that information. But if not, call the Mayor's Office of Constituent Services, and we'll get that information to you. As we close out tonight, I want to really thank the panel. I want to thank Director Chris Cope. I want to thank Director Mark Barner. I want to thank his assistant, was Amil Muhammad Stevens. And I also want to thank our health officer, Vic, who has been with us for the last 28 to 29 weeks. Cote, who really had guided us through when it comes to this COVID and this pandemic. And we want to really thank you, Vic, because I know that it has been a task for you, your office, and Dr. Griffin, those who are in the health department. We really appreciate all of you. Really, appreciate all our staff who work so hard during this COVID, continue to work hard. We thank all our first responders. We thank all of our nurses and doctors and UPS and all our mail carriers, everybody. We thank everybody because it has been a task. What I want to do before we close out to the panel, just if you have a closing or some things you want to talk about, or a number you want to give it out, I'll give you all just a couple of minutes just to filter that out, and then we're going to close out this meeting for the night.
I guess Director Bonner, start age before beauty.
Just once again, our main number, 973-266-5320 for our Code Enforcement Division. You can also, through that number, you can reach our Building Division, Vacant Abandoned Property Division, and our Rent Control Division. You'll be transferred to whatever division you need.
And for Public Works, we're open from 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and our number is 973-266-5330. Again, that's 973-266-5330. And Director Bonner, on a serious note, just thank you for all of your support in helping us tackle a lot of these projects. Obviously, the mayor, under your leadership, you tasked us with something that was very challenging. The city has gotten into the real estate business, it feels like, at times. But definitely we came up with a plan, and it's paying some dividends. So Director Bonner, you and your staff, Elsa, and the rest of your crew have really been real helpful in helping us get to that finish line. So thank you.
Well, certainly a lot has been said this evening, and certainly Director Cope certainly summed it up. You know, certainly one of the things I just want to make sure I share with the listening audience, if you have concerns or issues, please call the office and we will respond. Do not hesitate. Do not take it for granted. The best way that we can help you is by you reaching out to us. We're available during the day, and if there's something that goes on and off hours, certainly leave a message. But again, we're here for you, and we appreciate the residents in the city of East Orange. One of the things I like to say in closing, and there'll be more said and put out on Facebook in the next couple weeks, the next couple of days, that at the end of October, we're planning a citywide cleanup. So you'll be getting and seeing more information about that. That day to be October 24th. So I'm planting the seed now, but again, it's a citywide cleanup, and again, we want to make sure that we take pride in our city and make sure we beautify our city by taking an interest and making sure we do the work that needs to be done. So October 24th, write that date down.
Will the trees be cut that day also? Will y'all be cutting trees and everything on that day?
Well, we won't be cutting trees, not necessarily, Mayor, but if there's something that we need to do on an emergency basis, we will get it done. Certainly, if there's concerns and issues in the community that someone had with respect to a tree, please do not hesitate to call us. We'll come out and we'll assess the situation and we'll get it done. If we can do it in-house, we will do it. If not, then we will contract out with one of the other vendors that we utilize in the city.
Thank you. Vic?
Thank you, man.
I'm seizing the opportunity to implore our seniors in East Orange and all our residents to please get the flu vaccine. Please get the flu vaccine. It's not a choice anymore, it's imperative. Also, I'm appealing to our retail food stores, our establishments, to please enforce the guidelines of the executive order of the New Jersey governor. Face mask for all your staff, face mask for all customers coming into the store, and also a signage on your doors for face mask and social distancing inside your store as well. We do not want to have to shut those stores down for non-compliance, but please work with us so we can keep our city safe. Also, for those who intend to have outdoor gatherings, please call the health department. We will work with you to plan it to ensure that social distancing is maintained. Without that, if you plan any outdoor gathering and we happen by and you're not keeping social distancing or no mask is being used, it will be shut down.
Thank you so much, Vic, Coach. So with that, East Orange, again, We thank all of you for really joining us tonight for our COVID-19 weekly virtual town meeting. We thank you for, over the weeks, really joining in. And as I close out tonight, I want to thank our panel. Really thank all of you for coming on tonight, and my entire staff. You know, listen, we got a responsibility, right? And the responsibility is to take care of our community. And as I close out tonight, I want to close out with the importance of two initiatives that we've been driving for months. And many of us, honestly, witnessed a debate last night where the world witnessed really a disappointment, right? But we have a responsibility on November the 3rd. But before November the 3rd, all of us, and this week alone, you should start receiving your ballots. No later than October the 5th, you should really start receiving your ballots in the mail. And the responsibility we have to make sure that you fill out those ballots and get those ballots in the drop boxes, right? But again, the responsibility is that we have witnessed, again, in the history of really my life, an individual who really shown us who he is, right? And this is not about politics. I don't want to make the weekly meeting about politics, but I want to make it about how important it is for us to set a tone and get out and vote. And it's not only for us as adults, it's for the future of our young people who we represent each and every day. And we have to allow them to make sure that we, whose shoulders they stand on, to make sure that they have a future. So with that, I'm urging everyone, if you have any questions about voting, please go to the EssexClerk.com for information as our county clerk. We also have our city clerk. Those who are parolees and those on probation, you are now eligible to vote. I'll say that again. Parolees and those on probation are now eligible to vote. Young people who will be 18 by November the 3rd can also register to vote. The deadline for registration, and I apologize, I said the 3rd, is October the 13th. That date is October the 13th, right? I'm asking all of you to not only, as of today, to get on the telephone, let's start making those phone calls, let's start reaching out, let's start making sure everybody we know, when you get that ballot, put it in the box. If you're not registered to vote, get registered to vote. Register to vote is important. As folks have been saying for the last few weeks, last few months, this is one of the critical elections in the history of this country. And we have to make a difference, East Orange. So with that, I just want to give you a few announcements. The Census 2020, again, they have extended that date to October 5th. Again, we got another couple of days. If you haven't completed the census, get it filled out. It only takes you 10 minutes. We asking everybody to be counted here in the city of East Orange, here in our community. If you have any questions concerning the census, call, or you can go to census2020.com. Here's a couple of numbers you can call also if you don't have a computer. 844-330-2020. I gave that number out a lot of times, and also Connie gives it out on the Facebook, right? So I'm asking all of you, we got a few more days, let's be counted. It's important to our city, it's important for our young people, it's important for our school system, it's important for public safety, it's important for our hospital, it's important for our school district, and as our director talked about when it comes to our roads and doing things, DPW and property maintenance and our health department, all of you to fill out the census important to our community. With that, we're asking you to join us on Nigerian flag raising, which is going to be on Friday, October the 2nd at 5 p.m. in front of City Hall. So I'm asking all of you to join us on Friday as we do our celebration for the Nigerian Independence Day. Please come on out. With that, and it's going to be on Facebook at EO City Hall. So please follow us on that. It's going to be a virtual flag raising because we still are practicing social distance and we're still trying to keep ourselves safe and healthy. So with that, East Orange, we thank all of you for joining us tonight. We thank our panelists. If you have any questions, any concerns, please follow us on Facebook. Please call City Hall. Whatever we can do to help, to guide you, we're here for you. So with that, may God bless you. May God bless your families. May God bless East Orange. Have a great evening, but have a better tomorrow. Good night.